G'day guys, welcome back to Statchat Sports. You're here for the weekly AFL podcast and all four of us back on the chat. Myself, Josh, Tazza, Steve, and BT, back from a spell in the twos. Good to have you back from health and safety protocols, mate. You feeling all right?
Feeling perfect. Could not miss another one of these. Goody did a good job.
Yeah, shout out to Goody. Appreciate you jumping on the chat. We'll get you back on later in the year, particularly when Brizzy are up and about. Speaking of teams that are up and about, our regular segment to start the show, hits, misses, and hold fire. We're looking for a team that was a big hit this week. And Steve, heading straight over to you, who do you like?
Fellas, I think it's only fair we talk about the Gold Coast Suns this week.
Oh, yeah.
Big win for them in Sydney. Many think Sydney's going to finish in the top four. So to beat them is a big plus. They played well. They deserved to win. It wasn't like a scrappy win or anything like that. They led it quarter time, half time, and blew them out in the fourth quarter. So they really deserved the points. So yeah, good on them.
BT, I think it's important that we focus on the Suns here and how good the Suns were, as opposed to how poor Sydney was.
Gold Coast Suns dominated the whole game. Like Steve said, they led the whole game. They kicked the first goal and did not give up the lead at all. So they were very impressive. I think they won there last year as well. They like playing at the SCG. But to go on Sydney, I know a lot of people are saying they're top four, but you look at their recent results. They lost to the Doggies, just beat North Melbourne, came a big comeback win against Hawthorn, lost to Brisbane, and now lost to Gold Coast. So they're not really convincing.
Yeah, troubling times if you're a Swan supporter. You got to agree. In the middle was where the damage was done. The ruck contest, Sydney just got slaughtered. And Gold Coast midfield nucleus really coming into their own. No Noah Anderson, but Tazza still able to get the job done. They were plus 16 in contested possessions.
Yeah, when you got a guy like Took in the middle, he's just a workhorse. He's going to get it done every day, digging it out for him, and the work rate. The whole midfield just really works off his work rate, I think. He really leads that midfield by example. And yeah, it was quite a surprise with Anderson out, who's been one of probably their brightest light this year, and the way he stepped up. Yeah, a lot of guys through that midfield really stepped up.
Now, Steve, you are a man that is known for bold calls, and I'm going to put you on the spot here with this one. Gold Coast, are they a chance of playing finals? They've got a sort of tough draw heading into the bye here with Freo, the Bulldogs, Hawthorn, and North Melbourne. Do you give them a chance?
They're a definite chance against North Melbourne because they're probably not quite as bad as Eagles, but they're probably the second worst team in the comp at the moment. And given Hawthorn and the Doggies form at the moment, they've got a chance there. I won't say too much on Freo just yet because I'll get to that a bit later. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if finals calls a bit too much, but I think they can definitely pick up some points in those next four.
Yeah, look, I'm excited about the Suns. I'm not going as far to say finals yet, but there's certainly a chance, and they've really impressed us to start the season. Steve, nice call from you. I think a very worthy hit. BT, over to you. You are normally in charge of our miss segment this week.
I'm not going with a miss. After the results, it was pretty straightforward result this round, other than your Sydney. But we covered Gold Coast, the better team. It wasn't a Sydney loss. It was a Gold Coast win, that one. Then obviously you got your North Melbourne Eagles, who are just shithouse teams anyway. But so I'm going with Essendon as a win as well, as a hit.
Double hit.
8-goal double hit this week. We've changed it up. Essendon with their 8-goal last quarter to 1 to Hawthorn, massive comeback win. 2 meter Peter up there with Tom Lynch, Jazza Cameron as one of the best forwards in the comp. That was a crucial win for them. They had to win that, and they just came from nowhere. It was good to watch.
Hey, Tazza, how big is momentum this year? Because the swings are huge and teams are just getting on massive runs. I mean, the Bombers kicked the last 7 goals of this game. It was unreal.
Yeah, I didn't catch all of that game, but I remember, I think it was the last quarter, and they sort of just got in touch with them, and I'm thinking, oh, this could go down to the wire. And I remember tuning into the game right at the end, and I thought, what the hell just happened? They blitzed them, and Hawthorn's inability to run out games is going to kill them this season.
Yeah,
it just keeps happening, and it's a young team, it's a new system, it's going to happen, but it's bad.
Steve, BT touched on 2 meter Peter. He's our man. We love him. Sitting 4th in the Collingwood at the moment. How about that wingspan? It's just such an advantage for him, isn't it? It's just hard to go with him.
Yeah, well, I mean, if someone's that tall, you've got an advantage. Look at Mason Cox. I mean, he's a giant, and all he's useful for is marking the ball. But at least 2 meter Peter's got a bit of end product about him. So being as tall as he is in a forward line has obviously got his perks. So yeah, that helps.
Speaking of 2 meter Peter, can we just talk about the tall forwards this year? We've got Tom Lynch killing it, Jazza Cameron, Hawkins, Charlie Curnow, Harry Mackay, 2 meter Peter, Max King. These guys are dominating this season. It's really good to watch. These key forwards actually do a good job.
Yeah, no, it's exciting to watch. I think we're going to have a very interesting Coleman race. Back to the goal kicking of old. I love it. One other note on Essendon, which they'd be really happy with, I think their pressure and their tackling was up in this game, and that was a big reason why they won. I think they had 15 more tackles than their season average in this game, so it really lifted that rating. They've got a tough run coming up to the bye. I'd be interested to see if they actually do get a win before the bye. We're talking Sydney away, Richmond, and then Port Adelaide away. So they're games where they're going to tell us a lot about Essendon. If they can pick up a couple of scalps in there, you go, yeah, okay, they might have something to say in the run home. But if they're coming through that stretch 0-3, maybe this was just a blip in the ocean of what Essendon potentially could have been this year. So, all right, finishing up with our final part of this segment, the hold fire. Tazza, who are we just reserving judgment on a little bit for this week?
Look, anytime you verse Melbourne, you're probably going to get dominated. You're going to get crushed. They're rolling this season. They seem to play two good quarters of football every game, and it's more than enough. So I'm looking at the Saints this week. Really expected a bit more from them. It seemed like this was probably Melbourne's first real decent test since probably what we thought were the good Bulldogs in round one. And they failed. I think they were 47 points down halfway through the second quarter. Whether Melbourne took their foot off the gas for the rest of the game or the Saints wrestled back some control, it's a bit up for judgment. But holding fire because they host Geelong at Marvel this week.
Huge game.
I think that, huge game. I think that really go a long way to seeing where Geelong and Saints are, because they're both sitting 5-3. They both really need a good scout. Geelong obviously losing to Freo the other week, and the Saints off the back of 2 losses now. They were sitting 5-1 and now 5-3. Really need to discover some form, and so I think we'll hold judgment for one more week and see what we come up with next week.
Geelong and St Kilda, we might touch on that a little bit later on in the episode when we talk our game of the week. No spoilers, just saying. It should be an absolute doozy. One thing I did want to note on St Kilda, and BT, you mentioned this with Max King, and he's been really good to start the season. Biggest problem is that the Saints are so reliant on him. When the Saints are winning, Maxi King's up and about. He's averaging 3.5 goals a game when they win. That drops down to 1.6 goals a game when they lose. So the difference is huge. If Maxi has a big game, the Saints will get it done. If teams can nullify his impact, that seems to be all she wrote for the Saints. So, yeah, really, really interesting to see if he can continue his form and if the Saints can continue to provide the footy to him and give him those opportunities. All righty, fellas. Next segment, our game day overreactions. Sometimes when you're watching the game, you might get a little bit excited. You might get up and about a little bit. And that's what we like to touch on in this segment. We have one overreaction and one overreaction only. This has been one of the most topical points of conversation, much debate in the media. We're talking the West Coast Eagles and we're talking the nightclubbing 7. The boys have just gotten out on the Saturday night, gone to the dodgy nightclub, gotten up and about, got the COVID while they were there. Fellas, I just want to talk about what your thoughts are. I mean, is this a real overreaction from the club? Is this an overreaction from the media? BT, as an Eagles fan, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, they've got nothing else really to do. They're hardly playing football, so might as well enjoy something. I'm torn. I can see both ends of it. But you also look at the players who it was, they're not high-end players. You'd never see a Christian Petrarca or a Bontempelli or something like that out clubbing. It's these guys barely get a game, but the situation the Eagles are in, that's something you shouldn't be doing. But on the flip side, who cares? I don't care. It does not affect my life at all, whether they play or they don't play. I'm going to sleep at night. The interesting thing what gets me is they all got fined. I think it was $5,000. But what other workplace, if you misbehave like that, fines you? So people comparing it to, oh, you can't do this at workplace, you can't do that. But like, if I did something wrong at my work, they're just going to give me a warning or whatever. They're going to go, oh, you have to pay $5,000 to the company. So I can see both sides. I don't give a shit.
Tazza, you look like you've got some thoughts on this.
The Eagles are in such a predicament. These guys they're getting paid fairly well, and there were no rules set saying you can't do it, but they were told, from what I hear by the club, be responsible, be in the current climate that Perth are in, the current COVID climate. I don't think it'd be that hard. They're getting paid a decent amount of money. Most of them, I mean, yeah, we're not talking about stars, so they're not being paid $500,000 a year, but they're on a tidy wage, and I don't know. There needed to be some sort of discipline. I think $5,000 for some of these guys is probably a fair bit when you're looking at guys on rookie contracts. Guys like Naish come in probably on a basement bargain one. It's irresponsible from the players at the end of the day. Given the climate, I don't think they needed to be doing it. So there had to be some sort of punishment.
I think the thing that surprised me most was how forceful the reaction was from the club. You know, the club statements that came out, Steve, you know, Adam Simpson was quoted as being furious. Now, I have never heard such a forceful statement from the club about an incident. And as an Eagles fan, I can tell you there has been multiple incidents that have been, covered in my time as a fan. Yeah, even as recently as the Willie Rioli incident. I think the commentary around that from the club was, we're disappointed, but we're going to support the guy. For the club to come out and say we're furious for a couple of blokes that haven't broken the law, all they've done wrong is broken a team rule and gone out to the club. Now, were they stupid? Yeah, they were stupid. But I just think the reaction from the club, Steve, was, really interesting.
I don't know. I don't really think it's that over the top from the club, to be honest. Even if it is just a club rule, that they're not supposed to be going out in that sort of environment, given Eagles' current situation in terms of injuries and COVID and stuff like that, then you could almost guarantee if you go out, you're going to get it. You're going to catch COVID. So, and all of these guys, except two, I think, are playing because they're not injured. If I was them, you'd obviously want to keep playing, regardless of how shit the team's doing anyway. How long does the season go for? 6 months? You can give up clubbing for 6 months or whatever, and then you go out after the season's done. And I mean, they went out after they got pumped by Richmond, so I don't know if they were trying to make themselves feel a little bit better, or I don't know. It's a questionable decision by them. So
a few different opinions, a bit of fence sitting. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Let us know who was in the right, the players, the club. What are your thoughts on the matter? Let us know. We want to hear from you in the comments. All right, fellas. I'm excited for this one. This is a semi-regular segment that we've had on the show and really allows our man Tazza to come into his own. This is Professor Tazza with his monthly report card. What we like to do is Tazza will go through and he'll give his grades each month of the AFL season on how the teams have been going. And the three of us in the chat here, as well as you watching at home, get into him. Let him know who's right, who's wrong, who's been undervalued, who's been overrated. Professor Tazza, floor's yours, mate.
Professor Tazza is back. Are we ready to land, boys?
Oh, no.
Let's do it. Starting off from the bottom, we are starting with 3 teams I've given an F. Don't worry, the Dogs don't have an F. They've upgraded a little bit.
Okay.
But I've got your bottom 2, the Eagles, North, and I'm going with the Giants with an F as well.
Ooh, the Giants. Hard to argue with North and the Eagles, but the Giants, what's your problem with GWS?
There's too many Rolls Royces in that team. There's too many stars in that team. The defense is quite good. The defense has barely seen much change. The midfield is the midfield. Leon Cameron just has not got that mix right. I don't know what he's doing there. There's a lot of guys playing out of position. The forward line obviously is a weakness that we've pinpointed many times, but they're 2-6 and they've lost some games there that really they should have won. They're way too good a team to be 2-6. I mean, it was a borderline D and an F, but given where we thought they could have been this season, they get an F from me.
You touched on they've got stars in their team. Are these guys actually stars though? Because in my opinion, someone like a Ed Langdon from Melbourne, he's a star to me.
Mm-hmm.
A Lockie Whitfield isn't a star. He's a pretty boy player. He's got the skill there, but he's not a star. Josh Kelly, you could argue, maybe a star.
He's a star for me.
The only one who I would definitely say is a star, change of game, there it is, Toby Green. I say he's a star. I wouldn't put, I'd say they're very good players, but I wouldn't say they're stars. I had them gone pretty far this season, and I just think
you had them winning the flag, BT.
Yeah, I think they're just not good, and the coaching needs to change.
They've been found out. Yeah, Leon Cameron, he's been there 10 years, and they've got a grand final performance and a pretty shit one to show for it. So I think his time's up. There's something needs to happen with that team, and there's enough there. Yeah, whether they're stars or not, yeah, that's probably a good point. But there's enough there that team should not be 2-6.
All right.
Yep, I agree with you on
I
that
like
one.
it. Harsh but fair. Let us know in the comments if you agree. Tazza, D's, what do you got?
I've got 4 teams sitting at a D this time round. We are looking at Essendon, Port Adelaide, the Bulldogs, and Adelaide. Port on their way up after a horrible start. The jury's still out on them. They need to string a few more together to be nearly achieving a pass mark. Essendon 2-6, underperforming. They really need to get on a roll. But like you said, the draw doesn't look great. Bulldogs, I mean, I couldn't give him an F after what you guys fed me when I gave him an F last time. So they're sitting, 3-5 after a grand final. It's definitely not a pass mark. And Adelaide, 3-5, rebuilding. I mean, after a couple of, I probably would have given them a C if it weren't for the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, they have been dominated a bit in the last couple of weeks, but yeah, maybe a little bit harsh on the Crows given where they're at. They're kind of on track, I think, for where they should be. But yeah, the other 3 teams, are hard to argue with that. You could go lower if you wanted to. But that being said, your mob Port Adelaide, they have had a good last month. I will give them that. They are starting to claw their way back into contention. Not convincing at all, but they're getting wins on the board. So you'd have to be happy with that.
The signs are there, I think, for Port. It is changing a little bit. It's clicked. I mean, they lost to Carlton by a point. Yeah, they got smashed in that game and didn't deserve to win, but they were a point away from being a 4-4 team, really, of scoring the ledger. The signs are there. They're coming back. They've got North next week. So you'd expect them to get up there. Oh,
remember, they lost after the siren to Adelaide as well.
Yeah, that too. So, I mean, it's not doom and gloom. 3 wins against, 2 against good opposition in the Saints. And, the jury's probably still out on them. That they're a 5-3 team regardless. And the Dogs on the weekend. So it's getting better for them. Moving on to C's. We've got a few C's here. It's there's 7 C's.
Oh my goodness.
So there's teams that we see here swimming in the middle of the pack. We've got 8 rounds of data, but it's such as the topsy-turvy state of the fixtures at the moment and the wins that we're not really seeing any consistency from these teams. So we've got Hawthorn, Gold Coast, Collingwood, Richmond, Saints, Sydney, and Geelong. So a lot of those teams haven't met expectations. Some are exceeding expectations. Gold Coast exceeding, where I've got Sydney not meeting probably where they'd want to be, but probably should have won a few more.
Yeah, some interesting teams in there. I think Hawthorn's been disappointing given where they started the year. And I think you're right. I think Sydney, you could have ranked lower as well because their last month, they've really come back to the pack, I think, BT. I mean, they've been pretty disappointing given the expectations on them.
Yeah, like I said earlier on in the video, they've scraped through with these wins. Like even one of their wins was the Buddy Franklin 1,000-goal game. If he was kicking 1,000 that game, they were always going to win. That's just how things were going to work that game against Geelong. I think they're right where you are. You probably, I wouldn't have disagreed if you put them as a D, but they could easily turn it around. I think a C is probably right. I can't disagree with that one.
Yeah, no, like Saints as well. I mean, we look at them, 5-3, losing Sydney, and the Saints are on a very similar trajectory. 5-1, lost the last 2. I've got a couple of tests coming up. They really need to show something because they have looked like fancies, but we don't really know where they sit.
A lot of these teams are the ones who will take that 6th, 7th, 8th spot. That's what we're looking at here with these type of teams. They're not up there with the next lot of teams you're going to name, but they're good enough to challenge these teams in finals.
Yeah, well, now we pretty much get to the top 4. So it's probably that 10 to the 11 to 5 there, where you could throw a blanket over them, and we don't really know where either of those are sitting. We probably put your Collingwoods and your Hawthorns down the bottom, given the lack of experience, and you'd expect Sydney and Geelong to be somewhere there about come the end of the season. Moving on, Carlton. They get the lone B this time around.
On their own.
On their own, yeah. Look,
Interesting.
there's a clear top 3 for me, and put it together, you know those 3 teams. But Carlton, they're just sitting, leading that chasing pack. Like I said, the 3's far away. Carlton at 6-2. The Freo loss will hurt them because of that. For both teams, that definitely seemed like a bit of a prove yourself kind of game. But at 6-2, I mean, given where they stand, I think a B is fair.
I think the list is there. You know, I think in the pre-season, we didn't have them making finals, but I know personally for me, that was more a reservation on how long it was going to take for them to adjust to Vossi. And full credit to Vossi, he's come in straight away, completely, rejuvenated that list, and they're humming. So, they've got good depth. They've got great talent across the field. So, yeah, full credit to Carlton. I think the question with them now, Steve, is not so much can they make finals, but can they make the top 4?
I think so. I think a B's fair. Yeah, I think they can make finals as long as they just keep doing what they're doing. And I mean, obviously, the real test will be when they come across, like Melbourne and Brisbane. Obviously, they played Fremantle and lost there. So as long as they can at least show a little bit of fight against like Melbourne and Brisbane, then I think they've probably proved to most people that they could at least make a push for the top 4.
Definitely. Moving on to the A's. So we've got our last 3 teams. We've got Brisbane, Freo, and Flagmantle, and Melbourne. Look, Brisbane, they're really lucky where they are in their fixture list because they've played really well. They have. But they've hit the double injury to McStay and Danaher would usually hurt, but they've got 3 pretty decent matchups coming up. No, it might be 2 before they hit Freo. They're humming. They are. But some injuries could threaten to derail their season a little bit. Freo have been the surprise packet of the season. Their defensive brand of football is just, I wouldn't say defensive brand, but the way they've been able to restrict opposition teams has just been great. And Melbourne, Steve, there's not much more to say about Melbourne. They're humming. They're on a 15-game win streak dating back to last season. They can play 2 quarters of football and win games by 40 points. I mean, if there was another rating, they'd have it. But all I can give them is an A.
Melbourne's definitely the step above, I think, compared to Brisbane, Fremantle on level. Melbourne's that step above. They're just quality. They're just one of the better teams I've watched over the last probably 5 years. They're just good all around. And they're not even playing their best footy right now. Like we said, they play 2 quarters or they'll play a terrible first half of the first quarter and still lead at quarter time. It's one of the most underrated players in the whole league is Angus Brayshaw, playing a halfback wing role. He deserves to be All-Australian.
Yeah, that is a great call. Watching him the last few weeks, the way he just racks up and disposes off halfback, I think this is the player that they thought they were getting. I mean, obviously he was more of a contested player back in I think he was top 3 in the Brownlow.
Yeah.
Can't remember what year it was, but he's found a niche and a home there, and he's just absolutely killing it this year.
And you look at his brother on the opposite end, who's one of the Brownlow favourites. So
he'd be second favourite for me.
Yeah, I agree.
Just had to clarify which brother you were talking about there, because Hamish for the Eagles obviously hasn't really had the impact this year.
Superstar.
It's going to be really interesting. Maxi Gawn, at the time of recording this, not sure if he's going to play or not. So Luke Jackson has to lead the ruck. I think that's going to be really interesting to see if Melbourne still have that level of dominance and if Jackson can be the player that everybody thinks he can be. So
you can't read into that much. It's against Eagles. Let's be real. It's against West Coast, and
they could play without a ruck, and that'd be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
you make it.
There's a potential that I'll go to the game on the weekend. If I go, I'm going to watch Melbourne. I'm not going to watch the Eagles.
That's fair. They're playing good football. I mean, you're going to turn up to watch them. You're not going to watch the Eagles. The shit they've been serving up lately. Why would you?
If the Eagles somehow win this game, I will get their logo tattooed on my arm right here.
Hey.
We'll have the Eagle logo.
No temporary tats either. This is full on legit.
No, this is real. This is real tattoo. Will be right on the arm with the Southern Cross right there as well, right?
Oh,
you heard it here first. Eagles, you need a lift, all right? We need a big week from you boys. Tazza, really nice work from you, Professor Tazza. He's done well. If you've got any thoughts on that in the comments, let us know what you agree with, what you don't agree with. And yes, Professor Tazza, you'll be back in a month's time and we'll look at the teams all again. Alrighty, it's time. BT's game of the week. BT, you went in the twos last week. Good to have you back on board. I know you're ready to go for this one. What's the game of the round, mate?
St Kilda versus Geelong. It's a crucial game, I think, for both teams. If Geelong lose this, then they could be fighting for a final spot. I think the team who wins this, especially St Kilda, they need to win it, losing their last two. So it should be a cracking game. Max King versus Jezza Cameron and Hawkins, top quality key forwards in this game. I think there's the big matchup, well, not matchup, but comparison would be Jack Higgins versus Stengel. I think that's going to be a crucial one.
Two forward pockets, BT, that have really come out of the woodwork this year and I think really exceeded expectations for both clubs.
Yeah, they're both playing very well, especially Stengel being first year at Geelong, quality player. The interesting stat that I came across was Jack Higgins is one of the top players for pressure acts. So he averages around 15, 16 pressure acts a game, where Stengel averages around the 13. So that's crucial, I think, locking that ball inside. It's going to be a real contested type game, I think. So that's where I think these midfields are going to, that's where it's going to come down to. We can talk about these forwards, key forwards, big forwards, but I think it's the midfield that's going to come down to. So we've got Guthrie, Dangerfield, Parfitt, and Geelong, and Selwood coming up against Steele, Crouch, Ross, and Gresham. Pretty similar based on names. Probably lean towards Geelong, but if you look at the stats, it points towards St Kilda. If you're looking at contested possessions just talking about these four, not over team, just these four. For St Kilda, they average between those four 43 contested possessions, where Geelong, those four, average around 39, 40. So that little bit more. St Kilda average about 6, 7 more tackles between these four players. And the big one, what I came across was the last 5 games. Points against each team. Geelong's always been known for a pretty good defence, but they've conceded an average of 86 points the last 5 games, where St Kilda's averaged 71. I know there was that shitty-ass game up in Cairns, but I know that obviously that factors in, but there was obviously a lot of behinds kicked in that game. But based on stats, if you were looking at this game purely on stats, you would slight lean to St Kilda.
And they've got a ruckman that's going to give him first use as well. Marshall had a couple of injury issues in the last week, but assuming that he's, back and at full fitness, probably one of the top, I think I'd say probably one of the top 5 ruckmen in the competition. So he gives them a really good advantage there in the middle of the Saints, and obviously backed up by Paddy Ryder, who, despite his old age, is no slouch either.
Yeah, it's going to be absolutely cracker game, I think. I think it's going to be a reasonably low-scoring type game. And I've given St Kilda pretty harsh bashing this season, but they've proved me wrong. That game against Port Adelaide, I think you can cross that game out. That was just a terrible game. That should not have been up in Cairns. But Geelong's been pretty disappointing in a couple of games as well. So It's definitely the game of the round.
Steve, do you think there's any scenario where either of these two teams don't make finals? And if so, which team is the most likely to miss finals?
I think both will make finals from what we've seen so far. But if one team is to not make finals, I think it might be St Kilda. I agree with everything BT said, and I can't argue against the stats. But I think Geelong, they've got just too much firepower up top in Hawkins and Cameron to miss out on a spot in the 8. In my personal opinion, I don't think either of them will.
As you said, Cats are the number 3 team in the competition for scoring, and the two teams above them have both played the Eagles. So that's obviously a pretty handy advantage. Tazza, a tip from you. This is a close game. What are your thoughts?
Being at Marvel, I'm going to back the Saints in here, I think. The one bit that worries me, I think St Kilda are a little too reliant on Max King. So he's going to have to get up. He's going to have to play out of his skin for them to have any chance. And yeah, I'd probably put the Saints, their midfield, I'd probably put it just on top, given what BT said. But Max King's going to have a blinder to get it done.
Yeah, I'm going Saints as well. I think Marvel is the big deciding factor here. If it was at MCG, I probably would have lent to Geelong. But I think the quickness of Marvel Stadium, I think it's going to suit the younger legs of St Kilda. I think that's what it's going to come down to.
I'm going to back the Cats for what I said before. Just too much firepower up top. I mean, you boys have more football, AFL knowledge than me. You almost tipped me to St Kilda with what you just said at the end there, BT. But stick to the guns. I'd stick to Geelong.
That's right, Steve. I'm backing you in. I'm going with you. I'm going with the Cats as well. I just think
2v2.
2v2. Here we go. And I just think if King doesn't have a big game, like I said in the hits, misses, and hold fire segment, if King doesn't fire, the Saints aren't going to win this. And I think that Geelong down back, they've got the pieces there to cover it. De Koning has played really well considering, this is realistically his first continuous stint of games. Blitzarv is obviously a quality key defender. Tom Stewart, he's going to be guarding space as that third tall. So I think the Cats will have a plan for him. I don't think he's going to have the influence that the Saints need to win this game, and I can't see where else their goals are going to come from. Cats for me, 2v2. I like it, fellas. In the comments, let us know who you think is going to win this game. Are you with BT and Tazza? Are you with me and Steve? Should be a really cracking game, this one, and we can't wait to see it. Alrighty, fellas. It is that time. Our favourite segment, bold predictions. Now, Steve, we had a little bit of an overhaul last week without BT here. The bit of a relaxation of the level of boldness, but still no one able to get it done in our bold predictions for the weekend.
No, and I think the special guest was probably the most off. Goody, that was a terrible call. I mean, it's bold, and that's what we love, but it couldn't have been more wrong. So
I'm going back to Perth as well. Optus Stadium, I believe the Kangaroos love playing at this ground. Fremantle are going to be complacent, and they will lose this game.
Oh, sheesh. What? Interesting to see if anyone's as far off the mark this week. So I think I will be, to be honest. So I'm actually going to throw out mine first, real quick.
Oh,
it's why going back to earlier in the video, I held on the Suns and Fremantle. Because mine is that the Suns are going to go 2 out of 2, and that they're going to beat Fremantle at home this week.
That is a huge call.
I haven't learned Goody's lesson tipping against Fremantle, so I will see. I tried to find when the last time the Suns won 2 in a row, because I can't imagine it would have happened very often, but I couldn't find it. So that in its own right might have been a bit of a bold prediction for them to win 2 games in a row. But thoughts?
It is just a tip. It is a bold tip, but it is just a tip.
I mean, we're talking about odds here. Like, what was Josh's odds the other week? It was something like 1,000 to 1 or some shit.
Oh yeah, some.
I mean, you're going at $2.71, really.
You want to score?
I mean, what are they winning by 5 goals? Is Isaac Rankin kicking a bag? Like, give us some steak knives.
Give us an exact margin, something.
All right, I'll give you an exact margin. It's not going to be a blowout. Like, let's not get too carried away. But if I get this margin bang on, I don't know, deserve something. I deserve something here.
You keep your mantle.
first-
You keep your mantle as bold predictions master because there has been questions. There has been a few.
Has there been
times.
whispers?
There has been whispers.
I think as long as Melbourne stay undefeated, I don't think I'm going anywhere. The second they lose a game, we'll think of it. We'll talk about it.
Okay. Okay, you're on notice.
Let's throw out 23 points. Exactly 23 points.
That will be roughly around the 60 to 70 odd mark when he predicted exact margins based on memory. I'm not a gambler or anything, so
that is
Gamble responsibly.
that is the worst call we've heard on this chat so far. That is lies. Lies.
Yeah, that's a pass. I think we can give you that one.
Thanks, boys. Appreciate it.
All right, I'll go
Who's next? Go on.
because I've got Gold Coast to win as well with mine.
Hey.
I've got extra. I'm with you on this one. I've got Gold Coast to win. I've got Adelaide to beat Brisbane, and I've got North Melbourne to beat Port Adelaide. The 3 upsets.
Jeepers. You've gone the multi.
All to
Wow.
gone the multi. Yep. 67 to 1. That I don't gamble, remember? But that's the odds for that.
That is a very interesting pick. Are you game enough to pick all those in your tips?
I've given up on my tips. I wouldn't, but with how our bold predictions go, I wouldn't follow this at all. If I needed more source on that, which I would have been surprised, I would have argued.
Nah.
I would have added that North Melbourne's going to win by more than 5 goals.
Gee whiz.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tazza.
Jeez. I mean, I know we're probably not going to be very good in Tassie, but jeez, give us a little bit more credit than that.
Extra bit of dipping sauce at the top was nice. Definitely wasn't needed though. That's ridiculous, but I like it.
All right, well, I've got one for you, Steve, and it's got a few dips. All right, we're talking multiple dips here, so I hope you appreciate it. We're turning our attention to Collingwood and my man, Darcy Cameron, North Albany's finest. Shout out to the Kangas. Had him as my breakout player for the year this year. Last 2 weeks, Brody Grundy's been out. He's stepped up. He's been the number 1 ruck, and he's been really good. Very sneaky AFL fantasy pick if you want him this week. I'm sure Taz would be all over that. Ranked 103 in the nation right now. So he is absolutely flying. But Darcy Cameron, last week I sort of made a bit of a bold prediction where I had Daniel McStay with career highs in a number of categories. Clearly that absolutely fell to pieces with his ankle in the first quarter. But I'm kind of going on the same theme again. So Darcy Cameron, this week, career high for disposals. He'll have at least 22. He's going to double his career high for hit-outs. So he's going to have at least 32. And the kicker, Pies are going to beat the Doggies. So triple threat, triple dip. What do you reckon?
I like 2 out of the 3. I don't know. Collingwood to beat the Dogs. I don't think that's quite bold enough. Just based off what we've seen out of the 2 sides, honestly, you could toss a coin. To be honest, the first 2. I think any time a player beats their PBs in those sorts of areas is a pretty good game. So
he's doubling his career PB hit-outs. I mean, that is he's going off. Oh,
But the situation's different. Yeah. If like Brody Grundy was still playing and he was playing as a second ruck, something like that, but he's clearly the number 1 ruck there at the moment. I'm with Steve. I think you need to change the Collingwood win and you need to add something.
Oh, what do you want a margin, do you? Do you want a 5-goal win for the Pies?
That's probably better.
Is that bold enough?
Because they are underdogs. $2.75. That I remember I don't gamble.
No, are you happy with that, Steve?
Yeah,
Pies
that's better.
by 5 goals. Darcy
5 by
Cameron,
5.
career high disposals and doubling his career high hit-outs. Big game. Big game for Cam.
Yep. Good stuff.
All right.
There you go.
Sorry, how many fantasy points is he scoring? This isn't part of your bold prediction, but how many is he scoring?
I think he's going at least 120 plus this week.
Tazza, you got to bring him in.
He's in my
I
team.
know. Yeah, I do. That it's so tempting. Oh,
Zach Butters down to Darcy Cameron, bank a bit of cash. That is already locked in. My trades are set. I'm there.
I want to do it, but it leaves me with too much cash. So I don't know. I've already got cash sitting there. I had my trades. You're screwing with me. I was set, and now the value.
We'll leave it.
I got to do it.
We'll leave it to you. You're clearly doing better than all of us. So
I have been thinking about it, so I think it might be the play this week. I think you're right.
Oh, Tazza, I've jumped the gun. I think you haven't done your tip
come on.
yet.
Look, I don't know if I'm going to be able to live up to what you guys have done, but I'm running with a theme here. The birds will be grounded this week. No team with a bird will win.
Oh, wow. Here we go.
Yeah, right.
Different.
So some of these might pick themselves, but there is one little smoky in there. We've got the Dogs beating the Pies. We have the Tigers beating the Hawks. We also have Essendon beating Sydney at the SCG to lose 3 on the trot at the SCG.
Okay.
We have the Lions beating the Crows, and then we have Melbourne beating the Eagles, which is just a no-brainer. I thought it was a little bit more bold. Now I'm looking at it, I'm not so sure. I've really only got one.
You've got one game,
one
which is a
sneaky tip.
50-50.
Yeah.
Well,
I
it's
definitely
50-50.
wouldn't call it bold.
if I'm talking gambling side, I don't gamble, but I'm doing the calculations.
Can we get a I don't gamble counter in this video, please?
I'm doing the calculations, and I think that would be around an 8 to 9.
Can I propose something here? What about if all the birds lost by 5 goals?
I'll do that. I think, 100%. I think the Bombers, they'll come to play. Sydney don't look like, I don't know what they're doing. And like we said, they haven't been impressive. And I reckon the Dons are on a bit of a roll. I reckon they can find some form, and I'll take that.
It definitely spices it up a little bit. There's a bit of a different avenue there. I quite like that. That's interesting.
Yeah. Little theme. I thought we need to introduce a little bit more difference into these. So, yeah.
No, I like it. The first call was not great. But yeah, throw the +5 in there. I think if the fixture list was a bit different, and like you said, they all didn't just about pick themselves, it could be different. But yeah, I'll give it a pass on the +5 goals and the fact that it is just a bold prediction.
Okay, there you go. There's some bold predictions, some different bold predictions. Appreciating you guys in the comments. There's a few bold predictions being laid out. Rich Guy Not, he's a regular. He was with Goody on the weekend, so terrible pick by you. You need a lift this week, Rich Guy Not. And Justin Timberlake's brother, always chirping in with some bold predictions as well. So keep them coming. We love to see that. Fellas, that's about it for the video. Nice work. BT, good to have you back up in the league team, mate. We've missed you. You've done well. And, of course, you don't gamble. So we really appreciate that. Steve, Tazza, nice work from you boys as well. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Aside from that, we'll see you next week. We'll see you in the next video. All right. Catch you then.
Gamble responsibly.